Hello and welcome to A Lie with Amanda. Today we're going to be talking about what to do if people discourage you from starting a group practice. So, this is not uncommon. I see this in Facebook groups all the time. I've heard it from people, maybe not for myself, because the way that I started my group practice was sort of unconventional in the sense that I was a solo practitioner and I was like, well, I'm just going to bring on renters, and we called it caring therapists, but really it was a renters model, more of like and then it turned into a collective model where people joined my practice, but they were really independent. They paid rent and they paid in if they wanted marketing. And while that business model is still common, the problem with that is that we started to get more referrals than we were able to farm out, and then I needed more admin support, and the amount that people were paying in to get those referrals wasn't really going to cover the admin support that we needed. So it was like this catch 22. It's like we had too many referrals. We needed more support. In order to get more support, I needed more money. And in order to have more money, I needed to transition over how we did caring therapists. And that's how we became a traditional group practice that started out with 1099s, just like most practices do. And then at some point we got large enough and it's like, okay, let's start offering, employment, because it made sense for a lot of different reasons. And so depending on what your circumstances are, you might be starting a group practice because you want to make more money, because you want to see less clients, because you have too many clients, or you're a qualified supervisor and you want to have your registered interns working for you. There's a variety of reasons why people decide to start a group practice. And so I think that's a really good place to start, is the why. Okay, so full transparency here. If you're doing a group practice just to make more money, probably not going to be your best strategy, because there's a point, yes, where as a group practice owner, you can make more money than a solo practitioner. Let's just be clear about that. That is true, right? Why would somebody start a group if they can't eventually make more money, right? It wouldn't be worth it. You would just always stay as a solo practitioner. But the thing is that it takes a while to get there. Usually when you're a small group practice, 4 or 5 people, under 10 people, it's not necessarily worth it to have a group practice and think that you're going to make more money than you do as a solo practitioner. Now, you might be able to make the same amount of money, see less clients. You might be able to build out like a really special niche. There's a lot of variables, again, that come to that. But usually you start to make money the more therapists that you have. That's just basic economics, right? Then if you're looking to reduce your own caseload, that's where it can get interesting, right? It can be like you can bring on more clinicians, you're able to reduce your caseload, and then you run the business. But I want to be clear that you don't stop seeing clients and you stop working. I think that's a common fallacy. It's that you stop seeing clients and you work on your business. You see your business, right? And so again, the larger you get, the more time that you need to work on the business. I do not see any clients. I see 0 clients. My time is spent solely on working on the business, strategizing, working on projects, looking at where the industry is going. So there's a lot of things that I'm doing. I'm not doing nothing. I'm not like sitting at home doing nothing. I'm working on the business. I am the CEO of the business. So you have to ask yourself, do you want to be a small group practice owner? Do you want to be a supervisor that has some supervisees that work for you? Do you want to be the clinical director? That's where I see a lot of small group practice owners really operate. They're not really the CEO of their business. They're the clinical director of their business. They're the go-to person. Do you want to be a clinical director? Do you want to review charts? Do you want to hire? Do you want to train? Do you want to do all of those things? And if you do, then great. If you don't, then you've got to think about becoming bigger, because when you have about 15 clinicians, then you hire a clinical director. That's sort of like the math around it. And so you have to really be clear about your why so that you can turn out like all of that noise. I'm going to talk to you about my why, but first I want to thank our sponsor, TherapyNotes, who does make it very easy to open and run a group practice. They're really designed for solo practices and group practices. I love the reporting. We love the new AI tool. Our notes, we track what percentage of notes are completed every week, and the note percentage has gone up since we started using Therapy Fuel. And so that is very exciting. And so I want you to go ahead and check out TherapyNotes. So my why for starting Caring Therapists is really providing accessible mental health in our community. I started taking insurance when people told me not to. I started hiring people before other people started hiring, like in the same way that I was doing. And I kept taking insurance when people got off. Like a bunch of people got off Florida Blue. I stayed on Florida Blue. A bunch of people decided they weren't going to take insurance anymore. I kept with insurance. I have been a big advocate of providing accessible mental health. So when people are talking about what I'm doing, and maybe if they're unhappy or they don't like the way that I'm doing it, or one thing, like we get a lot of clinicians that come, they join, they get full, and they're like, I want to stop taking insurance. That is not a part of our mission. A part of our mission is to accept insurance so we're accessible in our community. And so I just always go back to that. And I know that if we're living our mission at Caring Therapists, then I'm doing the right thing. If I go outside of my mission, then I know if somebody on my team or outside of my team maybe criticizes that, then I'll take a look and see why we've decided to do that, or if it is a part of our mission, or how to go back to our mission. Like always go back, always go back, always go back. So if you're clear about what your mission, your vision, your why for your practice is, then you just you turn off the noise, you close it, and you do the things that you need to do in order to be successful in your solo or your group practice. I hope this was helpful. Bye, everybody.